So the Alabama Crimson Tide are on the cusp of yet another phenomenal recruiting class, but there's an individual, a part of the class in San Antonio for the All-American game right now that is turning heads. Athlete Isaiah Bond is making waves at the All-American game, something we need to talk about. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited about the wide receiver haul Alabama has in its current recruiting class? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all of that being said, we need to go right into this because a week after we heard praise lauded at Tyler Booker, Alabama's offensive line target and a part of the 22 class, a phenomenal offensive lineman who I'm very excited to see get on campus, to see what the coaches say, and to see his future. I think it's going to be incredibly bright. We hear a lot of positive reviews over athlete Isaiah Bond, who looks to play wide receiver for the Crimson Tide. Now, Isaiah Bond is a unique talent, someone who has speed and plenty of it, recording a 10.48 100-meter dash. And the interesting thing about it is last offseason, we heard Nick Saban say that the Alabama wide receiver room needed speed. A ton of talented wide receivers in that room, but still the Crimson Tide were after guys who could take the top off of defenses, individuals who would make the defense play differently and therefore affect the game in multitudes of ways. When you have guys such as a Jamison Williams, because that's exactly who the Crimson Tide went out and got to be able to answer that speed, you can see how he affects the game even when the football isn't in his hands, because you must respect his speed. You must respect that at any given second he could take it all the way, whether that be on a short route like we saw against Georgia or against Miami, a 94-yard bomb in which he's just going to flat out outrun everybody. But the result is the same. The defense has got to account for that speed. They must know where he is, and it affects the way the defense is able to guard the rest of the field. And if you're Alabama, getting in an Isaiah Bond is going to be massive in that capacity because you already had in a Christian Leary last year who had unreal speed, JoJo Earl, who's incredibly explosive, Ja'Cory Brooks, who's already showing his upside is going to be very high, and not to mention Ajayi Hall, who Nick Saban praised during the springtime, even though he hasn't gotten the reps, he has got an incredibly bright future. But when you look at this current recruiting class, Alabama went out and got a ton of speed at the wide receiver position. Aaron Anderson, a one-time LSU commit, also has that speed. And they are not alone. In fact, every wide receiver in this class for the Crimson Tide possesses that game-breaking ability. Kobe Prentice, Aaron Anderson, and now we are hearing the reviews on Isaiah Bond. And it's not just even the reviews we're hearing, because multiple reviews out of San Antonio are saying he is being pegged as a difference maker on the offensive side of the ball. We also saw videos from San Antonio on one-on-ones, and he was just flat out running by corners. It was actually a little bit comical to watch because these are very talented corners that they have guarding him. And Isaiah Bond is running by them like they're jogging and he's sprinting. This kid's speed is something that is going to have to be accounted for, and it's going to be interesting to see how he can contribute to this team, because not only can he be a dangerous wide receiver, he's somebody that you have to watch in special teams as well. Kickoff, punt return. I think his ability lends itself to be able to be successful in multitudes of ways, and I think that right there is where you really get excited. Because when you combine what Alabama has in this class for wide receivers with what they pulled last year, I think that's when the complete picture really starts coming together. Last year, Alabama signed 4 of the top 10 wide receivers in the nation, and this year, the wide receivers they have are extremely talented, and a lot of them were late risers. And that's where I think fans need to be very excited, is because when you look at the recruiting landscape, a lot of these guys have risen their junior and senior years, and they have really high upsides. And I think I always talk about stylistic differences and how styles can affect a defense. Whenever you put a wide receiver with the speed of Isaiah Bond, a Kobe Prentice, on a team with a Trayshawn Holden, a Ja'Cory Brooks, well, now all of a sudden a defense is having to look at the situation and realize that they can be beat in a myriad of ways. If it's a jump ball, Ajayi Hall, Trayshawn Holden, Corey Brooks, they can go up and get it. They need to also respect the physicality of all three of the individuals I just named, and all three of the individuals I just named are faster than they initially seem, so you have to watch the back end as well. But all the while you're concerned about the big body, physical wide receiver, they have speedsters everywhere. And that is where I'm very interested in seeing what the Alabama wide receiver room looks like next year. Because conventional wisdom dictates Jameson Williams is going to go to the draft. He's going to be a top pick in the NFL draft, showcasing everything this year. And he's someone that NFL GMs are going to want on their team. But because of that, what moves will need to be made in the wide receiver room? What faces will step up? Will we see some true freshmen next year be able to contribute in ways that weren't able to contribute this year? Remember, I've been very high on Alabama's wide receiver room and the true freshmen from last year, but what we do need to understand right now, before John Mechie's injury, Bryce Young had a great rapport with both Jameson Williams and John Mechie, both individuals going over 1,000 yards. So it wasn't like there was ample opportunity for a lot of the young guys to come in and contribute a whole lot. Alabama had a really solid wide receiver core, especially with the entrance of Jameson Williams, and the younger guys have been able to contribute where they could. But this week we are hearing Isaiah Bond is really turning heads, and that's not surprising in the least. If you run a 10.4 800-meter dash, you have dangerous speed that Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide will look to utilize, and speed that will keep a defense off balance, which is going to be great with Bryce Young returning. So I'm very interested in hearing from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking about the current wide receivers on Alabama's roster, the guys they have coming in, but absolutely let me know what you think about hearing Isaiah Bond turning heads at the All-American game. That's it. See ya.